are so easily caught up in the intoxicating speed of modern society that we may never stop to consider what our story is. Who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we going? And what is the meaning of all this? But if we ever do lift our heads up from the technological matrix we've engulfed ourselves in, we might notice the strange and lonely universe we inhabit. We stand on the edge of time. Before us lies an uncertain abyss, where humanity may evolve into an entirely different species. And behind us are our primitive ancestors, whose unsophisticated technology and lack of information make them different creatures inhabiting a foreign reality. Or so we might imagine. But what more is our society than a set of ideas, and a group of individuals working together to shape material reality to reflect those ideas? These ideas create not only the external world we inhabit, but the reality we consciously perceive, giving us thoughts to organize that reality, words to articulate it, and ultimately determining the actions we take to change it. Those ideas are packaged into stories, stories that we tell about ourselves, each other, and the cosmos we inhabit, stories we live in, literally and figuratively, as they inform both our imaginations and actions. And not only are we united to each other by the ideas we share, civilization itself is united to the spirit of its ancestors through the common story it carries forward with it from the past. If we forget those ideas which enabled our ancestors to climb out of the dust and onto the moon, then the spirit of our civilization is dead, and we become nothing more than foreigners, inhabiting the ruins of a different people. And without those ideas, why should we assume we possess the ability to maintain those ruins? Therefore, we must willfully enter into the story in which we are born, and awaken within ourselves, and in our own time, the spirit which enabled our ancestors to create the reality we perceive today. Our story is a long story. The society we have today wasn't built overnight, and in order to remember and understand who we are, we must start at the beginning of our own story, stemming from an oral tradition passed down from prehistory, and formed by the collective wisdom of many iterations of ancient civilizations. The Book of Genesis makes up the oldest living work in Western civilization. It is our origin story. Instead of perceiving Genesis through our modern lens, inserting sociology, politics, or science into a text written before these things existed, this video series will attempt to interpret our origin story through the lens of our ancestors who wrote it, summarizing Matthieu Pageau's The Language of Creation, Cosmic Symbolism in Genesis, to do so. It will rediscover the ancient form of metaphysics which gave rise to the civilization we know today. In the words of Matthieu, quote, "By contemplating the ancient biblical model of the universe, the language of creation demonstrates why these stories are foundational to Western science and civilization. It rediscovers the archaic cosmic patterns of heaven, earth, time, and space, and sees them repeated at different levels of reality. The final result of this contemplation is a vision of the cosmos centered on the role of human consciousness in creation." You see, there can only be one meta-story, and that story is our story, the story we are part of and live in. And although the beginning of that story has been written, the next chapters of it are up to us, and it is our actions that will determine how that story plays out. The only way forward is together with all of humanity, together, standing on the shoulders of all our ancestors who came before us, in communion with the wisdom they gained, and with determination to meaningfully add to that wisdom, so that the inheritance of our children may be greater than ours, and so that all of humanity can be united through one cosmic story.